Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome here to the launch pad. You are joining us for our live launch coverage of SpaceX Starlink 4-22 launching from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the launch pad, and you are joining us for our live launch coverage here today. Take a moment, let us know in the chat where you're watching from. If you're wondering why we went live a little bit earlier than we were originally scheduled, that is because SpaceX actually late last night moved up today's launch by about 30 minutes. And they are now targeting a earlier liftoff time of 10:20 a.m. Eastern time, or just about 10 minutes or so from now. We'll see if we need to adjust our countdown clock here. Couple different systems are showing different times, so we'll wait for SpaceX to confirm that. But we should be coming up to just about 10 minutes or so from liftoff actually here this morning. As always, here at the Launchpad, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together. And if you guys have questions, you can send those to us in the chat, and we'll be answering those live throughout today's broadcast. SpaceX should be going live with views from the pad from the T-minus 5-minute mark, so in just a couple minutes. So we're going to quickly run through everything about today's mission, and then we'll be answering your guys' live questions on air. But as we said, today is Starlink 4-22. It is the 20th launch into the Starlink fourth shell of the Starlink constellation. Today's rocket is the SpaceX Falcon 9 Block 5 Booster 1051 on its 13th mission, going on a 120-day turnaround, so a longer turnaround, but it is now becoming, again, one of the flight leaders, going for its 13th flight. We're launching from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station at Space Launch Complex 40, or Slick 40, and we are targeting touchdown of the first stage on Just Read the Instructions, which is station 657 kilometers downrange on Just Read the Instructions, with the support ship Bob, which will attempt to recover the fairings about 668 kilometers downrange. Now, weather's the thing that we're watching. We've been having 50% go for the last couple of days. We are keeping an eye on it. It's very gray in the area. We're hearing from our on-site reporters and rocket chasers, so we're keeping an eye on that. So far, the last cycle we saw through the weather stations here was that everything was green, but we are going to keep a close eye on that as things can change. There you go. Everything's green right now for winds and lightning, but there are other rules that they have to watch, which are for clouds and other things that they don't necessarily put on the screen, so we'll be waiting for an update from SpaceX in just a couple minutes on all of that. Today is the 165th Falcon 9 launch in its history, the 103rd flight with a flight-proven booster. SpaceX is going for their 29th reflight of a booster in 2022, and this is already SpaceX's 31st launch of 2022, which ties the number of launches SpaceX did last year. So we are now pushing into a new record. They said their new target earlier this year was 52 to 55. Elon then said they're going to be pushing into the low 60s. So almost doubling the number of missions they had last year. But today marks the point, the last mission where they tied last year and are going for that new record. Today is the 86th orbital launch attempt of 2022 of any space agency, and 92nd launch from Slick 40 for SpaceX. So very quickly approaching that 100th launch, and with their developments of the Starship facility at Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center, there are now conversations between NASA, Cape Canaveral, and SpaceX at possibly turning Slick 40 into another human-rated pad on the Space Coast. That way, should anything ever happen at 39A, they will be able to still have access to a crewed launch facility, giving them access to launching to the space station without much of a delay. So something interesting to see. You can actually see there someone scrolling on the weather station as they get ready for today's flight. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat, and we'll be answering those live for you. Just make sure you tag us at the Launchpad. A couple things to run through. As always, it's YouTube. If you haven't yet followed us over on Twitter, make sure you do so you never miss space news as it happens. You can join us over on our Discord. I'll be hopping in live comms following today's launch. It'll be a quick launch coverage again, launching into today with deployment just 15 minutes after launch, and we're unsure if SpaceX will share that. And make sure you head on over to our shop and use promo code LAUNCHDAY in the shop to get 10% off of everything. We also launched our brand new TLP reward system, so make sure you've signed up for that to earn your points, as well as sign up for bonus points on your birthday and new things for it. But today we should be coming down to about T-minus 5 minutes, 40 seconds and counting until liftoff of Starlink 4-22 launching from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. With today's launch, should it be successful, it'll mark 2,858 Starlink satellites that have been launched, of which 2,605 still remain in orbit. This is the 20th launch out of about 30 that'll be needed to complete the fourth shell of the Starlink constellation. SpaceX has a little bit longer to complete their first 4 shells of the constellation in the next about year and a bit to complete that first half of their constellation prior to starting their second half with shells 5, 6, 7, and 8. Just last week, we saw them launch the first of the third shell, and we have another third shell launch coming up in just a couple of days as well. We are hearing that Strongback Retract is in progress. SpaceX is going live here, so we're going to patch them in, and we'll be listening into SpaceX Mission Control for the remainder of today's flight. If you guys have questions, keep sending those in the chat. We'll answer them pre- and post-launch, but we'll listen in as we count down roughly about T-minus 4 minutes, 20 seconds, and counting. You're joining us for our live launch coverage of Starlink 4-22 right here on the launch pad.
You're watching the 52nd Starlink mission and SpaceX's 31st mission in 2022. The teams are currently tracking no issues with the vehicles or spacecraft. Weather is currently a watch item, but we are proceeding with a T0 of 10:20 a.m. Eastern Time. Currently, the range is green, and we are ready to support an on-time liftoff just under 4 minutes from now. And in preparation for liftoff, we are standing by for transporter erector retraction. Stage 1 lock flow complete. With that call out, just at minus 2 minutes 45 to go, the first stage is fully loaded with RP1 and liquid oxygen, and we're awaiting completion of liquid oxygen load on the second stage that'll complete around the T-minus 2 minute mark. Stage 2 lock flow complete. Falcon 9 is now fully loaded with propellants, about 1 million pounds of both RP1 fuel and liquid oxygen.
Ground gas close-ups.
Today's flight marks the 13th for this particular booster, and we'll be attempting to recover it again on our drone ship, which is positioned in the Atlantic off the coast of Florida. Falcon 9 is in startup. Starlink 422, go for launch. $30 seconds. $15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff of Starlink 422. Stage 1 chamber pressure is nominal.
Vehicle's pitching downrange.
Power and telemetry nominal.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
With that, the vehicle is traveling faster than the speed of sound.
Max Q.
The vehicle is through the highest point of pressure it will feel during flight, also known as maximum dynamic pressure. And back chill. We're just under a minute to main engine cutoff, followed by stage separation, main engine cutoff, stage separation, and then second engine start number 1. Nico.
Stage separation confirmed.
And back ignition.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And today's flight marks the 3rd for these fairing halves and the 50th overall mission to use reflown fairings. We will be attempting to recover both those fairing halves again to use on a future mission. On the left-hand side of your screen is the first stage deploying its grid fins in preparation for entry. The right-hand side is the second stage carrying our Starlinks to orbit. can see the speed holding steady on the first stage as we're on a trajectory back towards the Atlantic Ocean. Speed increasing on the second stage as we bring both the Starlink satellite and the second stage into low Earth orbit. Next major milestone for the first stage is the entry burn that will start in about 2 minutes from now. That burn lasting just about 20 seconds.
On a nominal trajectory.
Welcome. If you're just joining us, you're watching SpaceX's Starlink mission. This is our 52nd Starlink mission overall. Starlink is currently live in around 40 markets around the world. If you want to find out more, you can check out starlink.com. On the left-hand side of your screen is our first stage, making its way back to planet Earth, which you can see in the background. And on the right-hand side is our second stage's Merlin vacuum engine, taking our Starlink satellites to orbit.
Vehicle remains on a nominal trajectory.
Stage 1 FTS has saved.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
The first stage, also called the booster, has ignited 3 of its Merlin 1D engines to slow itself down in preparation for atmospheric reentry.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
Second stage burn continuing to look nominal.
Stage 1 is transonic.
You can see the speed rapidly decreasing on our first stage on the left-hand side of your screen in the telemetry. Next major event for the first stage will be the landing burn, around 15 seconds from now.
Stage 1 landing burn startup.
Stage 2 FTS has saved.
Call out from the teams of successful landing burn startup. Lighting just 1 Merlin engine in preparation for landing on our
Stage
drone
1
ship.
landing leg deploy.
Heard confirmation from the teams that the landing
Stage 1
legs have
landing is
deployed.
confirmed.
And confirmation of landing. There was also a call out there for second engine cutoff. So just in order here, This is the 124th landing of the Falcon 9's first stage,
Cape.
52nd
Nominal
overall
orbit
Starlink
insertion.
mission, 31st launch of this year, and there were some additional callouts there that we have completed second engine cutoff number 1, and we are in a nominal orbit. So that means that the second stage has carried those 53 Starlink satellites into low Earth orbit. Now, this last year, SpaceX completed 31 missions in total, and with successful payload deploy of our Starlink satellites,
Acquisition of signal, Newfoundland.
we'll have achieved the same number of missions this year, and it's only July. We want to thank you for watching, and be sure to check out our social media platforms for confirmation of Starlink deploy.
And just like that, SpaceX is concluding today's coverage again. Very interesting to see since they're only a couple minutes away from deployment itself. But we're going to, I guess, wrap up there. If you guys haven't yet, take a moment, engage that like and subscribe button. It really does help us out. We're working on getting our own live cameras down there, and we'll be able to stay live a little longer with those. So make sure you consider becoming a TLP member. It really does help us out. To be able to bring you the best possible space coverage from around the world. As we pointed out in the chat, it is launch day, so make sure you take a moment now, head on over to our shop, check out our space gear and TLP gear. You can use promo code LAUNCHDAY to get 10% off of everything there. We do have global shipping available, so take a moment and check that out. If you haven't yet, follow us over on Twitter at TLPN_official, where we live tweet space news as it happens. And kind of like a post show, join us over on our Discord. I'm going to be jumping in live comms. We got Doric, Stratoblaster, and Black Widow hanging out in there. And I'll be jumping in there in just a second. We can answer more of your questions and just hang out as a space community, as SpaceX has completed the same number of missions as they launched all of last year. Quite a milestone, and it is only the middle of July. So we still have 5.5 months more launches, and they're going to push that number. They want to go for the same amount they've done in the first 6.5 months in the next 5.5 months. So it's going to be quite a milestone, but that's going to do it for us here today, here at the Launchpad. It's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together, and we will see you next time. This is Zach from TLP Network Studios signing off. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.